A micropipettor, also known as a pipette man in many labs, is a tool used to precisely measure small volumes of liquid to be transferred. Micropipettors come in different ranges, and some of them measure up to 5 milliliters of volume. However, usually in the lab, we use a micropipettor to measure volumes under 1 milliliter. Here we have different kinds of micropipettors with different ranges that will introduce it to you as we go along. Micropipettors are made by many manufacturers. However, the common features are the same. I'll bring your attention to, we'll start from the tip and we'll go along and I'll introduce different parts of the micropipettor to you. There is a disposable plastic tip. These tips are usually color-coded. And for different sizes of micropipettors, we use different tips. Then there is the shaft. The shaft holds the part that allow for the changes in the liquid transfer and the amount of the air that gets dispensed. And also the shaft holds the tip. The next part is the readout of the micropipettor. This area shows the volume that's going to be moved and transferred by this micropipettor. We have the adjustable button here that changes this volume, and this is the plunger button. The plunger button allows for the pickup and transfer of the liquid. It has 2 resistant points, the first and then the second, which is a little bit harder to push against. This part is the tip ejector button. By depressing the tip ejector button, you will release the tip, as you can see. Now we're going to demonstrate the volume adjustment dial on the pipettor. The black button, as we said, is called the volume adjuster button. You should play around with it, moving it to the left and to the right to see the changes in the volume. As you move it to the right, you will be decreasing the volume, and as you move and turn it to the left, you will be increasing the volume, and you can see that on the readout. To set the volume, you first have to see what are the limits, the upper and the lower limits of your pipette man. If you look on top of a lot of the plunger buttons, you can see the upper and the lower limits. The lower limit usually tends to be 10% of the upper limit. If not, usually the pipette man is called by the upper limit. This would be called a P1000 because the upper limit is 1,000 microliters, which is equal to 1 milliliter. The readout volume is very important. Different pipette mans will have a different readout display. The top of the highest limit of your readout should be able to fit into the dial here. So here we have a P1000, meaning the 1,000 microliters. Therefore, this should be able to read 100 would be the 1,000, which I will show you right now. As you see, we are increasing it. And this is 1,000 microliters. So the top will be the 1,000 times. The middle level is 100 times. And the bottom level would be the 10th times. Now, in a different micropipettor, this would be different. I'll show you a different one right now. The limits on this micropipettor are 100 microliter as your top limit and 10 microliter as your lower limit. Therefore, here you would have to have 100 microliters fitting in this digital readout. As you can see here, we have a 0, 2, 0. This means 20 microliter because the top is 100 times, the middle is 10 times, and the bottom would be the 1x. Okay, now we're going to move into how to insert a tip into the micropipettor and how to transfer the volume. The first important thing you want to do is to learn how to hold a micropipettor. To hold a micropipettor, watch my hands. You put the micropipettor in the palm of your hand and you curl your fingers around it. You want the tip ejector section to be away from you. That would prevent from the accidental pressing of this part and disposal of the tip. Because if you have it here, while you're holding it, you might accidentally press it down. So you want that always to be facing away from you. Your thumb will be on the plunger button to be used to press the plunger. You want to experiment with the plunger button for a while to get used to the resistance points. And always remember, there's a first resistance and then there's a second resistance. You adjust the volume that you want to remove. Here, we will say we will put this micropipettor on to transfer 310 microliters. This is a P1000. 1000 is the upper limit. Therefore, 031 would be 310 microliters. The tips here, I'll bring your attention, are color-coded differently. These are the tips that are bigger and used for the P1000. You have tips that are smaller and used for a smaller micropipettors here. And there are tips that are used for the P100 or P200. For this, we need to pick up a blue tip. And tips are sometimes color-coded accordingly, so you can pick them. It's very important you always keep the lid shut on your box of tips to keep them clean. And it's important that when you pick up the tip, be careful not to turn the tip box over to drop all the tips. Once the tip is picked up, make sure it does not touch anything. Sterile tips are available. You can purchase them or you can sterilize them yourself. Once you have the tip picked up, you have the micropipettor holding, you press the plunger button down to the first resistance point only, and you hold it there. You go pick up the liquid, the tube that you have the liquid to be transferred. You gently insert and immerse the plastic tip under the top of the liquid. You slowly let the plunger button release and you pick up the liquid. You want to be careful not to touch any part of the tube with your tip. Then you open the tube that you want to transfer the liquid. You're still holding on to the plunger button. You bring this down and you slowly release your liquid. A lot of times your liquid is not going to completely be released. That's when you bring it to the second resistance, press it down, and release the whole liquid. You close your tube and you will discard the tip using the tip ejector button. You got to be very careful to be pointing in the waste when you are using the tip ejector button. And you want to be very careful when you are picking up the liquid to do it very slowly as you are pushing down the plunger button so that you will not have any bubbles or you will not splash the liquid. If you splash the liquid, if you pay attention right now to the bottom of the shaft here, there is where the air gets displaced. If you splash a liquid to the top of this area, you're going to contaminate the whole shaft and you're going to contaminate your pipette man. As a result, it is very important that when you are picking up the liquid, it's done very slowly. So, as for review for you, we have several questions that go over the material that I just covered.